Welcome to Weaving Trust Podcast. Hi, I'm Kathy Doherty, the People Navigator, and I help businesses avoid hiring and holding on to horrible people. This podcast is a space for honest, human-centered conversations about how trust shapes the way we lead, work and live together. I'm so looking forward to you hearing the stories that each guest has to share, and each episode will be slightly different because as we weave our way through the journey of my guest, we may go off on a few tangents here and there, but that adds to the enrichment of the tapestry that we're weaving. I hope you enjoy this journey as much as I did. Hi Benny, welcome to Weaving Trust Podcast. I am delighted that you're able to join me. And before we get started, in your own words, how would you introduce yourself?
Hey Kathy, thanks for inviting me on. It's great to be here. My name is Benny McClure. I'm a financial advisor, financial consultant. I specialise in mortgages and different types of personal insurance, and I've worked in financial services for since about 2008, 2009. So kind of strange time to get into that given what happened then, but still here to tell the tale and glad to be talking to you today.
All right, thank you. So we're all busy professionals, we're all balancing and juggling things. What's something that you find that either it's really joyful or it helps keep you grounded when with all the hustle and bustle of life?
I think the joyful part would be whenever you've got to the kind of the end of the application and you've been through all the kind of ups and downs and swings and roundabouts, and you're able to let somebody know that the offer has been confirmed and they just need to accept their mortgage offer. That's a great kind of feeling, and you kind of get that excitement from the clients and what they're doing, and them being able to know that they've got everything sorted and it's just kind of all the hard work's done. It's just a matter of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And then I started thinking, oh, it was like I had someone yesterday who just confirming their offer, and I was thinking, oh, 25th of November, like for Christmas, like it's kind of like maybe an early Christmas present's a bit much, but thinking about being able to get into your new house for Christmas, get your tree up, get everything done and organized and everything else. So so that's a kind of definitely the joy part. And I think having that kind of the positive part at the end is good at kind of keeping you kind of grounded as you kind of jump through all the hoops, because you're dealing with people's money, you're dealing with, I suppose, banks are lending money, you're dealing with their money. They need to make sure that you're going to jump through a lot of hoops. You're going to have to go through a lot of different kind of processes and policies and procedures to make sure that that everything kind of lines up. So knowing that there's that kind of light at the end of the tunnel can kind of keeps you grounded, keeps you going through the process. And so that's such a good thing about mortgages in particular.
And I think, especially given what you do, there's a lot of, shall we say, cowboys out in the market, and there's a lot of those who you would steer clear from. And so do you find that because the level of trust that you maybe have to work harder initially to build that with people? Because not only are you dealing with trust about a big thing in people's lives, you're also then dealing with money. So we've heard all the nightmare stories of scams and when email being intercepted and at the last minute deposits going everywhere, so for you, in terms of building trust, what does that look like with your clients and people you're meeting and all of that?
I think one of the things I really want to try and do with people is to put them at ease and make people feel as comfortable as possible, and try and be as reassuring as I can. So all the sort of smaller things like being on time and doing what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it, and all those sort of smaller things that kind of all give a kind of another layer of kind of trust and credibility. And really, when I think about it, most of the people that I've dealt with, I've known directly or indirectly already. I haven't really been working for myself for that long, so it's kind of a word of mouth and referrals are a lot of how I kind of find clients. So I'm kind of relying on people that already know me to say, oh, you should speak to Benny about this. He can look at that, and that's one of the again one of the kind of really great things is whenever someone says, oh, this is who you should speak to, and they kind of can give you a bit of a foot up in terms of that initial amount of kind of trust. I can think of someone that referred a friend of theirs to me, because they were just having so much difficulty and were just getting kind of, I think the circumstances maybe weren't straightforward, and
Mm.
everyone that this kind of client went to was, oh, this isn't really fitting in a box. This isn't particularly straightforward,
Hmm.
and we're kind of just he wasn't really getting anywhere, and that was particularly satisfying for me, but to be able to help someone that really was kind of struggling, just trying to go to whoever they bank with currently or whatever the circumstances were, and that person's then quite grateful and glad to be getting things moving forward, but they felt like they were just kind of getting hitting roadblocks all the time. So I think sometimes with me being earlier in this process, it is the sort of cases that don't fit neatly in the
Mm.
box,
Yeah.
that need more support, need more help, need a second look. You need someone to go and do a bit more research and find out. And I would say in terms of how I reassure people is that I'll go to every length and every means that I can. So I'll explore every single way this can be done, and until it just comes to a point where it's like this just cannot be done for whatever reason at this time. But then we might need to look at maybe put it in the diary for 6 months, and we can pick up then, and being as transparent about that as possible, because there can be so many directions and different policies and different things to review and check. So go into those, be willing to go to the every length possible. I think people can appreciate that, and that will build
Yeah.
trust, I think, as well.
Especially if they've been let down or told the fact that they don't fit nicely into that little tick
Hmm.
sheet, working through
Hmm.
that piece of software, that maybe it's like, oh, this doesn't
Hmm.
fit that person. And it
Yeah.
is going to take a bit more work. And you do have
Hmm.
many in the industry who go, no, actually,
Hmm.
let me go for the ones that I can process
Hmm.
quickly and I
Hmm.
can get my
Yeah.
commission quicker and I can move
Hmm.
on and get the next person through.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the way I want to sort of build my business is based on relationships. So it's more important to me to build a relationship and have ultimately the trust of someone to know
Yeah.
that whenever I'm going to be working with them, that I'll do everything that I can to do that. I'm not going to go, oh, this is taking too much time or too much effort or too much whatever. It's not, nothing's too much. I'm gonna, explore every avenue until we can get there, because there's whenever it comes to these sort of things with kind of with finances and mortgages and different kind of policies, there's generally trade-offs. So you can have the absolute, this is what you'd really want, but then there'll be other things where you'll maybe trade off something else to get, to still be able to achieve what you want to achieve.
Hmm.
So I'm willing to sort of go, well, we'll start with that, and if for some reason that isn't gonna work, then we'll go to the next and the next and next, and
Yeah.
really exhaust all the possibilities and build that relationship that way, so that person knows they can stick with me, and whether it's in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and then on and on and on, because I think that's the best possible way to try and do these things, particularly when it's money, and trust is so
Hmm.
important. Building that trust and keeping that trust is so important. So I feel like I'm saying trust a lot.
Well, the podcast is weaving trust, so
Yeah.
it's perfectly on point. But yeah, especially I think and me growing up in the financial services industry and aware of, I mean, like, I remember like my dad and my mum were always very much saying that your reputation and your approach, your integrity, your personal professional integrity, those treat them carefully and treat them
Hmm.
preciously.
Hmm.
And all the journeys and experiences that you have, can kind of lead you to a point where you have
Hmm.
some people who maybe take the easier route, and you got
Hmm.
others who, like yourself, will go, actually, I'm going to take a slightly more difficult route but that
hmm
actually brings more meaning and
hmm
really enriches what I
hmm
do and how I feel
hmm
about what I do.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. And yeah, I suppose a lot of the way I kind of look at things is how would I want someone to approach this for me? So I
Mm,
should try and put myself in as much as you can in someone else's
yeah.
kind of shoes and think, well, if how would I do this if this was for me and this is something I'm doing for myself? So I'm not gonna cut any corners or kind of try and do anything that's I'm not going to leave any stone unturned, because
Mm,
when I do things I kind of treat it like, because I feel very invested in it as well, because a lot of, I suppose, and maybe this is why I like this, doing this, is that I really like the people have kind of chosen me. They've like, oh,
mm,
you're the person that I want to do this and to work with on this. So I really want to live up to their expectations, and I'm very grateful and like glad that someone's went, oh yeah, cool, you can do this, do it, for
yeah.
get this sorted. And so that gives me a real enthusiasm about how to follow all these things up and follow all these things through. And maybe you need to kind of keep asking the question and go and speak to different departments and different people within departments and go to those lengths. So that's,
Mm,
I would do it as if I'm doing it for myself. So I don't think I can really do any more than that, because you know how important these things are, and how the better that this works out for someone, the better off they're going to be, and it's going to keep them on a good footing and make sure that they're keeping money in their own bank account without having to like kind of watch more going out on a direct debits
mm,
month by month for
mhm.
different things. So having that kind of mindset, I think, is important. And I suppose it's something I need to get across to clients as well, because I suppose I'm just thinking as I'm saying that, like, the people may not necessarily know that, but because I wouldn't necessarily say, it's only when someone
Mhm.
asks you a question where you sort of elaborate.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's certainly the way my mind works whenever I'm like, oh right, how do we do this? What's going to be the most suitable, the best way of getting this organized, and quickly as well, because the other thing is, with this, it can be frustratingly slow. And I suppose I get frustrated by it being slow as well. So again, that's kind of part of me going like, how do we get this? I'll just email them again, or I'll just phone the BDM, the business development manager, and say like, where
Yeah.
is this case in the queue? Or is it, could
Yes.
you, anything you could do? Or because once a decision's made and certain, you've passed certain points, certain thresholds in a process, it's just the sooner we can get this moved along. And
Mm,
again, I think that could hopefully be reassuring to people, that if if it isn't going as quickly as they hope or as I hope, that I'm updating them and saying like, this is where we're at. They've done the survey, but they're waiting on the survey now to be
yeah.
the surveyor to write the report and give the report or whatever it is, and that's where we're at.
It doesn't feel
So
like it's gone into a big black hole and there's kind of
yeah,
what's going on.
yeah, and sometimes like I sort of say to people, like, I feel like I need to apologize. I feel like I'm torturing you, that I'm going back to you about needing different information, needing different things. And this particular person said, no, I'm really glad when you're getting in touch and asking for more things, because it's good that things are
Yeah.
happening, things are
You're
proceeding,
asking
things
for
are,
a reason.
yeah. So
There's something happening.
yeah, exactly. So there's more movement, there's more things going on. So, and again, I suppose maybe I've got a bit of a misconception, but I think every application will have some things will be a little bit out of the ordinary and a little bit different. Maybe someone's kind of moved job recently and they aren't able to get their P60 from their old employer, or there's sort of different reasons why different things can kind of throw up an issue here or an issue there. And being able to kind of think, well, how do I, what's the way of fixing this? How's the, what's the solution? And that's a kind of another kind of mindset, is like, well, how do we fix this problem?
Yeah.
What's the solution? What do we do? So whenever the P60 thing was an issue, I thought you can go onto the government gateway website and go and find what is effectively your own tax return for the year. And I sort of did up a little kind of instruction of like, go log in. If you don't have a government gateway ID, create one, go and log in. You'll be able to get that, print that as a PDF, send it to
Give them the
me,
step
sent
by
that.
step as to
Yeah,
yeah.
And I thought they might say, actually, that isn't a P60 from an employer that has this on it. And they may not have been, they might have said, no, keep going back to whoever it was in the old
Yeah.
payroll department and say, I need that. Um, but that worked. They were like, yeah, of course, that shows exactly what all
Yeah.
tax you paid that year, which is what they ultimately, they know what income you've got because what tax you're paying. And,
Yeah.
that sort of satisfied that need. And because kind of back and forward, and whoever didn't really care about someone that used to work here,
Yes, it's kind of
and
what
their piece system, like,
once they've
yeah,
gone, it's like a case of
yeah, this like that was at the
we're not.
bottom of, the
Yeah.
bottom of everyone's pile, and I was like, I don't
Yeah.
want to, continually wait on this, and
Yeah.
so I was glad that worked. Now, whether that'll
Yeah.
work for every lender,
Yes.
some can be very particular, and
We've said P60, it must be the P60 and look
yes,
like the
exactly,
P60 and say
yes,
P60 on it.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's a
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that's just, I suppose, a small example of thinking a little bit outside the box and how can we get things moving.
Yeah. So, thinking of your own experiences, is there, say, like a moment or an experience that's shaped how you think and feel about trust? Something that impacted on you personally that
Hmm.
you've taken and it has helped or hindered in terms of your approach to trust.
Um, I don't know. I can't think of any like specific examples, but the way I would kind of always approach everything is anyone that I meet or that I'm dealing with, I would sort of start them off at like 100% and think this person will treat me the way I would treat them,
Yeah.
and we see each other, kind of eye to eye. And I suppose over time you start to realize that there isn't that kind of, it isn't a two-way street. It's more of a one-way street, and you start to think, oh, maybe I was a wee bit too kind of trusting, or a wee bit too
Hmm.
kind of quick to kind of think the best. And just it takes time for that, sometimes to for you to realize that I've been a wee bit too optimistic. But
Hmm.
as much as that is still something that it's just part of life, that's just the way
Hmm.
it is. Different people have different kind of ways of looking at the world, and how they kind of how they feel is what's acceptable, and things. So um I don't think I could change that even if I wanted to. I think I'm just
Yeah.
naturally going to be like that. So it's not like I can
Yeah.
go, oh, I'm going to stop, I'm going to
Yeah.
flick that switch where I kind of start to be like
I no
more
longer
judge,
trust
yeah,
anybody.
be like I'm
Arr.
judgmental now from
Yeah.
straight from the get-go, because
Yeah.
I think that's just part of what makes, that's just the way my brain works, the way I think.
Yeah.
And I think if you're if a start I suppose the other thing is, and again we're talking about trust, is that you need to be yourself. And
Yeah.
because I think people will pick up on that, and they'll kind of realize, oh, you really, is this, if you're trying to put on a bit of a front or seem a particular way or
Mm.
whatever it is, I think even on some level people will be like, doesn't,
Yeah.
so being
When I
yourself.
kind
So
of describe the spidey
yeah,
senses pick up on all the other
yeah,
signals going on, to go,
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
mismatch here, there's something that's not
yeah,
quite.
yeah, you kind of got that kind of gut instinct, which you know you need to be able to uh think about, or it can be sort of tricky, I suppose. But yeah, you're you, I think sometimes the gut instinct doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily get it at the time. You can be like, oh,
Yeah.
chatting away grand, and then it's kind of after you're going, that doesn't seem to really, something doesn't really stick there.
Yeah.
And I think, well, maybe it's just the way I kind of process things after, and I'm like, oh, but and then you kind of think how any kind of future involvements will go. But so yeah, as you need to really be yourself, and that's really, I think, at the core of what of what trust is. Because if you're continually trying to second guess and think about projecting what you think what you think they want, or what you think is better, then you're gonna kind of drain yourself, and you're
It's
gonna
totally exhausting trying to
yeah, you're
keep
gonna
up with
lose.
whatever spell you're trying
Yeah,
to weave.
yeah, you're trying to like, yeah, you're just gonna like lose energy, because you're not just being able to sort of think in a straight line and right, apply what brain power you've got to what's happening. You're going to be trying to like circumvent it from like that. So
It's like trying to
uh
overcomplicate things
yeah,
unnecessarily,
yeah, exactly, yeah. Although I suppose something that sometimes I think the way I learn is by trying to kind of replicate kind of other ways and other, I suppose, other people, and how they do things. And you can still look to kind of think, well, that's how I would want to go about doing that, but you still do it in your own way, as your own person. But because sometimes that's just, how do you ever change or develop if you don't kind of try and have something that you're wanting to replicate, or think, oh, that's quite a pretty good way of doing this, so try and go that direction, but it still has to be me in my own way.
Yeah. Is there anything that comes to mind that kind of, when you're thinking about that particularly when you're talking about, you admired maybe the way that somebody did something and you thought,
Mhm.
I'm going to try that in my own way? Is there anything?
Yeah, well, some of the guys I work with, we'd be working in this industry a long time, and uh, you kind of think about, how do they kind of go about things, and how do they kind of approach things. And I suppose, I'm kind of looking from the outside in rather than being necessarily there. But people that I work with, their strongest relationships, or their best clients, are clients that they've had for the longest amount of time, which is why I thought, well, if that's the sort of business I want to build, then I want to have those long-term relationships, because
Yeah.
they are the I'd say more difficult, and obviously it's just going to take time. But that's why it's worth having those building blocks and having a solid foundation to be able to have a long-term relationship. And that's really, what really counts. So it's trying to kind of emulate that, and think about how if you make that your kind of the purpose, and like one of your goals, which it isn't a sort of goal that has an end point on it, if you know what I mean. It's like a
Mm,
time bound goal, really, because
yeah.
but I think if you take that mindset into relationships, then it's a good thing to have at the forefront of your mind. So I don't know if that's particularly, it's a bit of a rambling answer, like, but it's a bit of, a
No,
feeling,
yeah.
and yeah.
No, I mean, it
So
can certainly mean there's all sorts of situations where you're all make it's one of those things that you're always learning from the people around you. There's
mhm,
always something to kind of pick up, either to, yes, I'd like to do that, or
mhm.
I must remember not to do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. I know that's the thing. Like, trying to learn from other people's mistakes can be a particularly good way of doing things, if you can. And that's something I try and do to some extent. But even if I'm kind of aware of it, I still kind of can find my own way to do it in the most kind of difficult way as well. So, like, one of the things that we've talked about, before, is whenever you work in financial services, there's like a continual need to sit exams and to
Hmm.
continue professional development and all these things. And I kind of have managed to sort of do the most exams in the kind of longest, most roundabout way. And just, it feels like there's people that I kind of know that have made this kind of much more direct and straight kind of
Yeah.
line towards that, without kind of having this kind of meandering kind of back and forward. But that's it's still, I suppose, just part of what makes me who I am. And that's just it's just one of those things that, to be able to have the kind of upsides and the good parts of this, you need to kind of put your head in a book, and
Hmm.
force yourself to sort of study and make yourself do these things along the way as well. So again, it's kind of, you were saying about that, like, the light at the end of the tunnel is getting through those things, mean that's what I'm, you can get to that point, and can kind of keep you going when you're like, oh, I really could think of nothing, I'd rather do less. If that sentence even makes sense. But
Oh,
but
absolutely, absolutely. But I suppose, like, sometimes that the more meandering route to get those, to sit those exams and to get the
mhm,
next thing, you're acquiring knowledge as you go through
mhm.
that. Do you think that that matters to clients? Do they see that as this is part of how I trust in you, that you know what you're doing? Do you think that is important, or
Yeah,
is
well, I
it just
think,
like, is it more for you and the industry?
yeah, well, I think for me, this is gonna, I don't want to sound too kind of hypocritical, but as much as, it is kind of time consuming and tricky to go through, it is better that the industry is doing this, and they're looking to improve standards and improve these things, because it gives more credibility, and it does kind of, guys that were out there that were maybe historically not doing as kind of good a job, or kind of were more concerned about themselves than anything else, are less likely to want to stay in the industry and do more things, and well, do more exams and have more kind of compliance and
Hmm.
all those sort of things. So it's necessary to have that, and that's just, that's just one of those things. But what was the first part of your question again? Sorry, because
Was
I was kind of,
do you think it matters to
yeah.
clients
Oh,
that
yes,
much?
clients.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I think in time, because I don't think I'm going to be able to really continue through my entire kind of career with people that kind of know me, or you know,
Hmm.
know me once removed, like a friend of a friend. I'm going to need to be able to find people that don't necessarily know me, and I think that's something that could be reassuring, and could build some trust for someone that doesn't know me, or know someone that knows me. Oh, well, this guy's got his qualifications and those things. So I think that's where that could,
And I think
that will start to
actually, I mean,
matter more.
it could be something that is part of, whether it's on your own website or something, in terms of explaining that actually
Hmm.
it's not, I'm not just doing them for the sake of doing it. It's that this is
Hmm.
why this matters.
Hmm.
It dissuades the cowboys, shall we say.
Hmm.
And this
Yeah.
is why I feel it's important for building your trust, that you know
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
take you and your money and your situation seriously,
Hmm.
and this is
Hmm.
why I dedicate that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and there was something that I went to earlier in the year about consumer duty. It was like there's a consumer duty alliance, and uh there was a lot of focus around really trying to bring the financial services industry up, and
Hmm.
on a kind of a level where it's got that kind of integrity, and it's got that kind of credibility that that I think it hasn't always had.
Mm.
And I think they want to try and get it to a point where it's maybe not quite, but maybe more on a par with, say, like accountants maybe, and
Hmm.
where there's that kind of level of trust ultimately, and
Hmm.
that level of importance placed on it.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is going to continue and grow, and more people, I think, are going to need to take advice, and have the benefit of advice, and the standards will continue to be raised within the industry. And
Hmm.
so that's going to be good, because I'm looking at the next, what, 25-30 years. Like, dear knows what the future holds, but a long time, and I want to be able to um continue to develop, and to have that kind of standard, and standards improve,
Yeah.
and get better to like live up to that as well.
And I
Yeah.
suppose, Monique, for you, why did you choose, of all the various areas of financial services, or even the industry itself, and the fact
Hmm.
that entering the industry after the last big crash,
Hmm.
so why, I mean, like, what was it about the industry that made you want to go into it, especially when there are issues of trust and,
Hmm.
people's
Yeah.
faith in, when the next crash comes and all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
What made you, where trust matters to you, what attracted you then into that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think part of it was like, when I was at university, I studied accountancy. So um by kind of studying that, I kind of realized that I didn't want to be an accountant. I didn't really want to kind of be that kind of cut and dried, in terms of how that works. And
No offense to
uh
any accountants out there who probably love the more black and white approach.
I know, exactly. Thanks for, because I was just as I was saying that, I was thinking, how do I kind of not how do I stop this from sounding like I'm being mean to accountants? But But yeah, so it just wasn't really, it wasn't gonna be something where I was going to go into one of the big firms or a small firm or anything like that really. So I was kind of going into like graduate schemes because that was, another sort of direction to go. And I was at a friend's wedding, and was talking to someone who had also studied accountancy but had went into kind of financial services and said, "Oh, I think this is what you should be doing. This, I
Mhm.
think this would suit you," and kind of really I think planted that kind of seed.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, like maybe that is the direction for me to go in, and that's, where to go. And so I think it was that. And I thought, well, this guy studied the same sort of, he did the same degree as me, and
Mm.
and that's what he's doing. And it made sense then for me to think, well, I should explore that and see how that
Mhm.
can pan out and how that can go. And so whenever I worked for Prudential in like 2008, and it was great, going well. And then they decided they were going to move their offices, where they were going to move the kind of department I was in from Belfast to Reading. And it was going well, so I proposed, and on the strength of like, this job, this is good, settle down, all the rest of it. And then I was going to be getting married. I'm thinking,
Mm.
oh, do I move to Reading to keep this, to stay with that job? Or, and I kind of thought, like, that's surely like the worst way to start off a marriage. Like, you're kind of going back and forward all the time. So that wasn't really realistic. But that was kind of going in there, and then like realizing that there's various exams and different sort of levels you can go through to get different qualifications. And that's where it really sort of started from. So uh yeah, I don't know, it wasn't really any particular. I don't think I kind of grew up thinking, "Oh, this is what I want to do." It's kind of like, what
To be honest,
what can I
I
use
don't think many kids grow up going, I
No,
want to work in financial services.
yeah, I know exactly. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like, what kind of fits, what can
Yeah,
you get interested in? And I
yeah.
suppose you kind of move towards what you're interested in, and being able to kind of find solutions and help people. And that was what I suppose I enjoyed about it. And being taking some sort of taking something and being able to work with it and kind of
Mm.
get some sort of a conclusion or an outcome, and finding fixing things in a, because like I'm really not in any way DIY or good with my hands, so I have to use my kind of talk more
Yeah.
and do things that way around, because I'm really like not for like painting, decorating. Like, there's no no handy like bones in my body at all.
Is there an interest in it? Just the execution of it just never turns out quite right.
No, I just kind of, I don't know. I think it's just, if you make it worse, then you're going to end up needing to get someone in to kind of fix, well, how badly I kind of tried to do it. Do you know, if you know what I mean? So I think it's whether I ever want to kind
You
of
know where your
persevere.
strengths are.
Yeah, I'm kind of going, oh, I don't know if this is really a good. I feel like you kind of need to make your mistakes to learn to do it well. And I don't really want
Hmm.
to make enough mistakes with that to go, oh, right, now I know now what way I should have done that. But how do you undo what you've been trying to do along the way? So yeah, so that's because you kind of think now, the way things are going, trades are just going to be like electricians, joiners, plumbers, mechanics. They're really coming into like the kind of, the world's moving towards people that can do so many things with their
Hmm.
hands,
It's
and
more
being able to.
the digits
Yeah,
that are
exactly. Because
AI driven.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I kind of think, if I was to pick a trade, I think I'd go joinery. But if I was gonna think, right, AI is taking over here, and like, you
Hmm.
don't need
All the
this.
intricate stuff,
Yeah,
that's yeah.
yeah, yeah. Trying to work with wood and whatever. I think that'd be pretty good. Because I really think I would electrocute myself quite badly if I got near electric. So it kind of rules that
Yeah,
one
that,
out.
that that would kind of be a bit of a, you wouldn't be building
Yeah,
trust with customers if you were the
no,
electrician that electrocuted yourself
yeah,
repeatedly.
yeah, exactly. And then plumbers would have escape of water could be a big thing there. I'd be like, oh, where's this leak coming from? So I don't really like the idea of dealing with electricity or water. So kind of ruling those ones out, and then working with wood, I think, yeah, that could be the way to go.
That could be a new hobby for you.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, kind of turn over like a whole new leaf and be like, yeah, discovered woodwork.
So when it
Yeah.
comes to, so we've talked about trust with clients and
Mhm.
building that. What about when you're, I don't know, you've got a new colleague, or well, back when you were maybe an employee, or
Mhm.
you're working with different people across different teams, or even if you're like the BDMs that you were talking about in terms of contacting, how do you build those relationships with them that they know that you're the good guy, that
Mhm.
you're gonna do the best for your clients, but
Yeah.
what does that whole relationship building look like for you? And
Yeah.
how do you then have trust in them that they are gonna
That,
help you?
yeah, that's a really good point and a really good question. So I think that what that can come to in terms of like with BDMs is that you're not just wanting to, you're not going to treat that, person just as a resource, as information, and not make it transactional. So, and I suppose this is maybe something I would be more natural, is that I'm not just going to be abrupt and direct to like, oh, I need to know this, I need to know that. I kind of always kind of have a bit of a preamble, like a bit of, I suppose it's building a bit of rapport, where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what's crack, what are you up to? And, having a bit of that, because I think people then realize that you're taking the time to sort of interact with them as a person, and you're thinking about them as, well, what are they doing, or what's going on. And I think that's really something that you can try and do. And I would always kind of be looking to sort of have that bit of a chat. And interestingly, one of my clients was a BDM for a company that I dealt with a lot whenever I was an employee.
Mm-hmm.
And we were chatting, and as you do, like, we would always be talking about this and that and different things.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we're like, right, this is let's get done what we need to get done. But she happened to mention that, oh, she sold her house and blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, have you got your mortgage sorted? So yeah, so just from kind of having that kind of more
Yeah.
rounded approach, and having
Uh-huh.
the bit of a chat, and always were kind of interested in what they were up to and what they were doing, and things. So that was, I think, like, I've got like kind of one random client that's in England, and you're like,
Yeah.
everyone else is kind of, you could draw like a circle around. We're like,
But
where
I
did
think
this come
I
from?
think that's what people often miss as well, is that your clients aren't necessarily, they won't always come from the most obvious sources. And
Yeah,
how you
exactly.
build relationships with people has
Yeah,
knock-on effects and ripple
yeah,
effects. And
yeah.
somebody who you were their client could be your client, and you
Hmm.
just don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, exactly. So like I did kind of feel a wee bit kind of cheeky, but then I thought, you know what,
You've
like,
got a
if it
relationship
was,
there, so
yeah, if it was
it's
the
not
other
as though
way
you didn't
around,
have that, you
yeah,
know.
I would be glad if someone said, oh, do you draw me the, I can help you with this. And I suppose the other thing is, I wouldn't, it is, I kind of struggle with kind of asking for business and asking for those things. But the way I would kind of approach it is like, well, we'll just have a chat. And if I can tell you, do X, Y, and Z, you don't need me anyway, just go and do that, or don't feel like. So I would always go into it thinking, if I can help you without this needing to be a
Hmm.
whole big thing, then point you in the right direction. And you might, and I suppose that is, in a roundabout way, builds trust, because people they see that I'm not just wanting to sort of, there's not another transaction, it's not another kind
Yeah.
of piece of business. It's like, don't be thinking you need to do this, has to be done through me. If you can just phone your own bank and go, right, that's, they can sort
Hmm.
this out for you, and I'll kind of say to you, ask them this and this, and get that and that, and kind of give them the pointers and the kind
And
of a bit
there'll
of
be those people
info.
who are actually okay doing that, and then there'll be the others that
Yeah,
go, actually, I'd rather you do that for me because
yeah,
I'm either not that confident, I don't have the time,
yeah.
I simply don't want to screw things up. This is too important for
Hmm.
me to
Hmm.
kind of to do.
Yeah, and like being kind of once removed, like, you know, you feel like sometimes you do need to fight your client's corner a bit, and you need to be able to stand up for them and be out, and like that's much easier to do whenever you're kind of, when someone like me is kind of once removed, because it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel quite as personal.
Yeah.
Um, because some people can, you know, maybe be they're too close to it. But so having someone else that can look at it from the outside in and go,
Yeah.
this is, yeah, so that can make a difference. And I suppose the other thing is, like, not like when I think about people like the clients that I kind of work with, it's people that you kind of, that you know, or you know, to some extent, but you can't work with everybody either, you know, so different
Mm-hmm.
people will click with you, or will kind of, because I need to rely on that person to say, if I need this and this and this information, or else this isn't going to go anywhere. So
Yeah.
they need to send me that, and then it gives me the ability to go and do the job, and get things organized. So yeah, so you need to be able to click with people and have that reciprocal relationship, and trust goes, you know, both ways. Because I suppose I always
Mm-hmm.
think about trust in terms of, I look to build trust, and then I
Mm-hmm.
also need to trust the people that I'm working with
Mm-hmm.
as well, that, you know, that they're kind of giving me everything that I need to know. And there's times whenever certain information comes through and kind of dribs and drabs, and then you kind of realize that something was, they were maybe hesitant to be able to, to bring something up, or to bring something
Yeah.
forward that they needed to know. But
Mm-hmm.
then, as I say that, maybe that was, they didn't completely trust and thought, oh, I can't
Mm-hmm.
really mention this. This isn't gonna. But I
Yeah.
would rather people say, like, put it all out there, good,
Mm-hmm.
bad, indifferent, whatever it is, get it all out on the table, and then
Mm-hmm.
we will work together to get it organized. And the sooner you can get to that point where all the kind of everything's out there,
Mm-hmm.
then the better it can be, and it can be that bit quicker as well sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know. I started thinking about this analogy about a jigsaw, and you dump all the pieces out onto the table, and you start trying to get the
Mm-hmm.
corners, and
Yeah.
like, I don't do a lot of jigsaws, but you kind of feel like you're missing one piece. You're like, well, there's a bit here I need,
Yeah.
and when you get that, you're like, okay, right, we've got everything now, because
Yeah.
it does feel a wee bit like that, getting all the different pieces of information and all the things you need, and making it all fit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay, so as we come to the end of our conversation, can you think what's one thread of trust or advice that you hope listeners and our viewers carry forward?
I've been thinking about this because you'd mentioned like this could be a thing that would come up. I don't know, you kind of feel like this is going to be really deep and meaningful, and, really, really incredible. But I think, I don't know, the thing that keeps coming back to mind is about being yourself. I
Hmm.
think that's the main thing, um,
Hmm.
that it really all boils down to. And I think everything else would be window dressing, and
Uh-huh.
there's certain things that, that may help a little bit along the way, but like, ultimately, I think, be yourself, and you know um that'll be what really counts. And that's as much as anyone that you're dealing with can hope for as
Hmm.
well, so if you be yourself and just take everything at face value,
Hmm.
and then that's about as kind of deep and meaningful as it can get. I don't know.
Thank you very much. No, I think that's very true. It's about there's an awful lot of energy that goes in that people put into not being themselves, and
Hmm.
for many sorts of reasons. But when it comes to
Hmm.
building trust,
Hmm.
nobody likes to feel that the other party isn't being genuine as well if you're
Hmm.
also
Yeah.
being genuine. So no,
Yeah.
it does matter. It is important. And
Hmm.
so where can people find you and follow you or connect with you?
Ooh. LinkedIn is probably a main one. So, Benny McClure, when you search for me, I like, there's not a lot of Benny McClures on about. So, like, even across America and all these, so I think you can find me relatively easily that way. I do have a Facebook, um, and an Instagram, so
Hmm.
you can have a look on there. I do try and post periodically various sort of things on, put those things out there, but those would be like the socials, and my mobile, my email and things will be on that, so you should be able to find me relatively easily. And we could have a chat with and see if I can do anything, or if you just need a bit of point in the right direction or whatever it is.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for joining me on Weaving Trust.
Great. Thanks very much. It's been brilliant.
Thank you for listening or watching Weaving Trust podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you hear future episodes. Each episode will have a different guest and we'll be following them on their journey about how trust has shaped the way they lead, work and live.